working better for me.
Well, just like I'm here and I look at the, oh, sorry, I forget the young married lady who was here, who should be here shortly.
Tammy.
Tammy,
She's not coming.
she was totally oblivious of hemorrhoids and what have you, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm thinking at work and that other people know there are different ways of having the baby, not just the pure line on the back and stirrups and
But it's where
bam. There's so many different ways where someone might have the pretense of having the natural baby, but it doesn't work that way, so they sort of need to know different branches.
So, if I enter this, if we want to know different
I know someone.
ways of birthing,
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's
Accidentally.
yeah.
But for choosing for a lady, there's obviously water birth, there's natural birth, there's
A water birth is fairly natural.
Yeah,
natural,
well,
but
I think
natural as in
what
no
you-
drugs, and then there's drugs, and then there's the cesarean, and then there's the C-section, and
There's epidural,
what else is
there's
there? You know, it's like in the back of a taxi, yes, we know that. But got to give the ladies the open mind, not used to, because you know what you've been through. But it's good to know from you
And,
the different, like,
anything could have, like, you've got to be open to.
That's
open
the
mind,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
just-
your preference, you told me, is water birth, because it must be natural and soothing or what have you. Good to let the ladies know, you know. It's like they've never had a baby
It
before.
was quiet, the lights were dim, and it was just two midwives and my husband, and
That's perfect.
and your dignity is a little bit more there because it's in the water and it's not there for
Yeah, well, that's perfect, you know, and
But
that's
it's
never
all
been
down to
said
the-
tonight.
It's all
That's,
down to the individual as well though, because what might, Ryan, it's what I mean by circumstantial, is like what might, like I would find having a home birth quite stressful because of having previously really fast labour, so in my head I'm just thinking I just want to be where if something goes wrong, and that's what relaxes me, whereas, yeah, like, I don't know, I might get there and want to go in the water even though I say no, I don't want a water birth.
Yeah.
I might want to, but I want the
You
options
might
all
just
open
want to
to me.
labour in the water and then get
Yeah,
out.
and then get out, yeah, but I will
that's your
almost...
second child. There's ladies here who have never had one, so they need to know.
Yes.
Sorry, I've had a few drinks, so I'm fine.
well, I was going to say, it's actually a really neat, you know, and exactly, I think that's something really special about this plant, this makeup, is that we have got some experienced mums here. I mean, you've got a stepchild, is it?
Yes.
You've got a stepchild as well, yeah. And, you know, first time pregnancy, and it's just lovely that we can all sort of tap into each other, and that's also what sort of meeting here is about too, is afterwards, is, you know, obviously we are going to go through some of these things in birth, I call them journeys versus birth
Journey,
plans.
good word.
Because as we know, best laid plans occasionally can divert, but we all end up in the same, you know, in the end. So we are going to go over a bit that you've raised actually tonight, which is actually
That's
quite
cool.
neat.
That must have sensed it.
You must have had those feelers out. But horrible, horrible weather. I'm sorry if you had to do the run. There is no archway over the back here, so you can all sneak out the front door tonight if you like, rather than doing the run down the alleyway. But it actually got me thinking today, this is horrible weather, and we've been building forts and hammocks under the table and all sorts of the kids trying to, my house would pretty much
I'm
always...
arguing a lot.
Pardon?
I'm arguing a lot.
Arguing a lot. That's could be the other side of it, you know.
Hair pulling and pinching and...
Oh no. But yeah, little house walk. So I thought perhaps we could all share what we remember doing on weekdays when we were kids, and perhaps something we'd like to do with our kids. So I'm sure most of us remember fighting with our siblings too, I must admit. I have rung and said sorry to my mother for every time me and Maggie. Now that I'm on this duty from the parent side of it, there is the odd moment you go, oh mum, I'm so sorry. I remember doing that. So, yes, if you would you mind starting,
Do you mean-
Something you liked doing when you were a kid, when it was wet.
Oh, we had a pool table, we used to put the blankets all over the pool table and make cubby houses. And we had outdoor cushions for the chairs, and you could put it underneath the pool table and make little rooms.
Very good.
I just remember doing that. We loved it. We always had to clean it up.
I was going to say, that was part of
We
it.
did.
Part of the thoughts, isn't it? Brilliant. Do you remember doing anything?
I think my my dad had a friend who worked at an appliance store, or maybe was the part owner or something, so once in a while he'd bring home a refrigerator box or an oven box or something, or even a couple. We used to cut holes out to make windows and doors and tape them together and tape so that they would be tunnels or houses or something like that, and draw them and stuff. And, so, yeah, really is that.
Are you right?
Me, way back in the black and white days.
I had VCRs too, don't worry.
Well, I grew up in the tobacco farm in Motueka, so I used to play in the kiln, basically.
Yep.
With neighbours. That's all you could do. TV was black and white back then, I tell you, it's in no cartoons, so it's like...
We travelled a lot, so I don't know. Yeah, we always had. We would go to the cinema if it was raining. That's the young thing. We didn't spend a lot of time at home with our parents, so I don't know. Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, some of the four building inside thing, I had a few younger brothers, so rugby at the park with friends in the rain.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's quite good fun to slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Play in the garage with the brothers.
I don't really remember. I lived in Grayma in my younger years, so it was probably mostly rain.
Every day.
But I read a lot as a kid anyway, so I imagine I would probably just
Quite
stay outside and read a book. Yeah.
So it's sometimes really neat to flash back to what we did as kids, and especially ones that are very clear, like you're saying at the pool table with a cut in the boxes, or playing with your brothers in the rugby field in the mud. I'm sure your mother must have loved you guys coming home. But yeah, all those sorts of games, and like even playing in the kiln. Wasn't Troy Street, was it?
No, Collins Street.
Oh, I was going to say, my husband was playing in the kiln. He's actually told me that story too. So.
Nice and warm.
I didn't even know about tobacco farms when you told me that, so it was like.
But, you know, and you think of what those ones, especially those ones that are really still vivid in your head, I would say 10 years later for all of us, or just pretend that one. And you sort of think actually those are the sort of things that you would love for your kids, because at the time you might go, oh, I'm bored, but it is those little things and games like that, and just that time, you know, kids want your presents, not your presents. And that's actually a really just valuable thing to remember. Probably most things that you remember very clearly as a kid are probably ones that, you know, didn't cost a lot, but were great fun. So, on that note, guys, if you'd like to go for a wander, you're more than welcome.
What time are we due back?
How long?
And I do, as I said before, I expect you to stay awake for 7:30, so. What's the time? Sorry, we have a bit of discussion for you.
7:15.
So, if you want to come back at about 1:45.
1:45?
Yeah.
No worries.
So.
Make sure you give them a checkbook.
Don't get too drowned.
Yeah, no, you won't.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just like. Rainy days he starts drinking quite early because him and his mates will get together because they can't work. So I was kind of dreading this. I begged him 2 weeks in a row not to say anything to you about this. He goes, but why wouldn't she? Because he just thinks you can just decide what kind of labour you can have, I think. And so to him a water birth is different to like a natural birth. So he goes, right, why wouldn't you have a natural birth and then a water birth and then a caesarean and then a B&G? Like he just thinks you could trial out every single different way. And I'm like...
But it is actually really neat to get his thoughts.
Yeah,
you know,
you always get his thoughts.
I just thought they were all really valid the way he, you know,
He just doesn't always express, he doesn't always get things across the way he intends, which, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
absolutely got it. And yeah, so hopefully they should have neat talks and say something to,
Yeah.
talk about what they're looking forward to or what they, might be worried about. And sometimes, and same goes for you guys in here, sometimes, as much as we love them, occasionally there's things we don't want to say in front of them or we may not feel like asking, so it's just sort of a little bit of a safe space just with us, and same as them getting that same opportunity that, because occasionally we we may not understand what they're meaning, but another bloke does.
Mm.
So I'm sure we've all
Yeah, don't worry, your husband's going to
conversation
come
and
in
gone,
with so much wisdom. Right.
it's all right, these formal nights. So, first of all, so two of you will be aware. So, directly after birth, so your placenta has passed, you will keep bleeding for quite some time. So that's actually called your lockout. And so what happens with that is it's relatively heavy for the first couple of days, and directly after birth, your midwife's going to keep an eye on how much you are bleeding, because obviously we don't want too much, but do expect there to be a wee bit of, it's, I remember my first, it was a wee bit of a surprise. I sort of went, wow, okay. So a reasonable amount is what they're looking for. I think it's less than 300 mils. So
What does that translate to? Is that like a heavy period or more than that?
it's more than heavy.
Constant as well, like, yeah.
And I'd suggest you wear black pants,
Mm.
Yeah.
dark pants,
So
no light pants.
just to give you guys a visual, because that is sort of the size pad
That's
you're looking
serious
at.
looking. Yeah.
It is. They are.
The ones in hospital,
They're like a surfboard type thing.
So they're no mattresses.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
you always get 3 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So the hospital doesn't
And they're
supply
tan.
pads anymore.
Pardon?
The hospital does not supply pads anymore.
Wow.
So after you've had your baby, what, if you didn't bring anything, you just,
I'm sure they must have some in the emergency, mum's forgotten, but as per handouts, they do ask you to bring all your own, and the other sort of stuff. So you will have something called a bluey under the bed, and same at home. Your midwife will actually put a wee thing under your bed for you, which is disposable, just in case.
And what do you look for in the shop? Like, what would that be labeled?
Maternity pad,
Maternity pad. Okay.
or a long overnight pad.
although maternity I think is even
Can I?
bigger, do you think?
That is a maternity one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maternity are wider, is what I tend to find,
Okay.
than the long night,
Mm.
the overnight.
And with wings.
I just want to say what I found was the best was the Tina lady, the incontinence pads are amazing because they're a little bit thicker and they're so absorbent.
Mm.
And they're big like that, but
Well, because you can get different sizes of those too.
You just
Like
look at
a
the
soup.
flow.
yeah, so you can get really, really absorbent Tina.
You look at the flow, they have like an indicator on the side with like
Little teardrops.
teardrops. Yeah, teardrops.
Like that blue
So they're
photo
good
of that
for
water.
straight afterwards.
Pardon?
They're good for straight afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and quite often you may want 2 of these for the first day. So just to sort of cover all bases, so to speak. And you put another one at the front, and
Oh,
and
okay.
you will be wanting to change this quite often. It's really important you do change pads quite often. Now, things your midwife is going to be asking you, and it's not because she's nosy or anything else, she's going to be asking you what's your bleeding like, how heavy is it, are you seeing any clots, does it have any smell, does it have any sort of gunk in it. Now, all of those questions are to do with whether or not you might have a bit of infection, and that can be because you've retained a little bit of placenta or a little bit of membrane.
Small clots is quite.
Small little clots are fine. Anything larger than an old 50-cent piece. Anything that
It's
size.
quite big, really. Yeah,
You sort of know when you've passed a reasonable sized clot, you will see it. Also, it starts off bright red, so like a frank blood. In the first few days, it slowly peters down to sort of a browny red, and then it'll peter out to a pinky colour, and then you'll just sort of have a heavy discharge. Now that can take up to about 6 weeks. I know, but you have had 9 months break, so just think of it, a lot of balance.
Sometimes you think it's gone away too, and
Keep up with the liners for quite a few days past when you think it's finished, because you might get caught out a little bit, because it does tend to come and go, especially as it's petering out, it will come and go a little bit. Now the important thing too is if you've gone from the bright red bleeding and you've slowed down to the brown, or even if you've gone all the way down to the pink and it suddenly goes bright red again, or it suddenly becomes heavy, suddenly you have a lot of pain, you do want to let your midwife know again, because that's another one of those signs that we're looking for, that perhaps something was retained. Your midwife has, of course, checked your placenta at birth. If there was anything obvious, then they will actually, go and get it out then and there. That is done at the hospital. So even if you birth at home and they decide there is something retained, they just transfer you up to do that with baby, and then you can go straight back home again. So it is done under general though, so they do wait for, I think it's 12 hours that they like to see that you're, but it doesn't mean you have to go up and be admitted to hospital for X amount of days. So all those questions about the log-out, they're really, really important that you're honest with her. I know it can be quite an embarrassing subject for some people to, want to talk about, but it's, I have had it said to me by a midwife before. She had someone just sort of say, yep, because she was embarrassed by it, and it turned out she had quite an infection going. And so it's one of those ones that's really important that, perhaps if you're uncomfortable talking about it around your husband, or, if you've got your mother-in-law or something sitting on the couch and not really something you want to go, just perhaps say to your midwife, can we do this in private and just tingle off to your bedroom, okay? If you've had stitches or anything like that, your midwife's also going to ask about them, and she's going to ask if they're sort of staying nice and dry, and again, she's looking for smell, discharge, those sorts of things from there. C-section would be the same thing. They should be asking lots of questions about your scar or how that's healing. Any questions about that? And something else for you subsequent months, you'll know about after pains.
I was just going to say about that, yeah.
Especially when you're feeding.
No one told me about that when I was pregnant with Riley.
I remember one night after my first, just up for hours with taking Panadol.
Yeah, although while you were breastfeeding, while I was breastfeeding, about 2 weeks after I was born, and then I'd just get these cramps and things, and I didn't know what it was, and I panicked, and I thought, the worst possible, but yeah, you do.
So that's that oxytocin we were talking about, that's really triggered by breastfeeding, and so you're not supposed to have them after your first birth, but I did. And I know lots of people that do after their first one. Generally, it's more with each subsequent birth. Did you find that with each one you had more after pains? No, just roughly the same with each one?
I don't remember having much after my last one actually. Probably more with my first.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do wonder if that's a bit of a myth. Oh, you're not supposed to get it with your first because, yeah, but I do know lots that have it too. But it is very similar to a menstrual cramp feeling, and that's that oxytocin triggered by your breastfeeding, and it is actually doing a wonderful job at clamping your uterus down and actually bringing it down to its size prior to pregnancy, prior to birth. So you might, especially those first couple of days when you're breastfeeding, you might have a wee gush of blood when that's happening. That should lessen as time goes on, and so should after pains will lessen as time goes on. But yeah, it's just the oxytocin working. It's doing a wonderful job, but at the time it just seems to be a bit unfair. But yeah, so don't be alarmed by those sorts of pains. So when I'm talking about pain, I'm talking about real sudden pain, not like a menstrual cramp. You can sort of tell the difference. I mean, would you describe it just more as a menstrual cramp?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just quite intense and but not crippling, like not searing, but yeah, just like period pain basically. Yeah.
And that wee gush of blood too.
Yeah.
And then it happens when you're feeding, so you think, well, it's got to be associated with. It didn't happen when I wasn't feeding.
No, so that's that oxytocin doing its thing. So
because I knew about the breastfeeding and the contracting everything down, but no one had told me to expect any sort of discomfort with it or anything. And all of a sudden I was like, holy crap.
I'm getting a bit of a fright. So too late to actually. Something else you will likely need after birth, but probably not till about 3-ish days when your milk starts coming in. Those of you that have previously had bubs, you would know if you're a leaker or not. You are. So breast pads are something that it's a good idea to have 2 or 3 pairs if you're using the washable ones, or get a box of the disposable ones if you may be someone that doesn't leak. or maybe someone does.
And I have to have tea towels.
Yes, I was going to say,
The nappies, new
I was gonna say,
nappies.
I was going to say, the cloth nappies folded up, wrapped around, those first few days. Oh, that's rather hilarious what we do actually occasionally.
And it's quite spectacular.
Yeah.
How far your milk can go when you rock hard and you move suddenly. It's quite impressive.
A lady was feeding in the library
Yeah.
and a baby come off and it squirted.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I had that and I was
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that's going to be individual to each. We are going to go over breastfeeding on the 5th night and go into more about it, but just while we're going on about what to definitely have in your wee handy bag.
Some people start leaking while they're pregnant, don't they? Sorry.
Yes.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, how does it work when you're breastfeeding as far as medication and stuff? Does all of that get passed on to the baby?
Depending on the class of it.
So if you have like bad cramps, can you take something? Or?
Panadol, a lot of midwives, especially in Nelson, you've been restrained, haven't you?
Yeah.
So she'll give you something homeopathy. She's got a lot of wonderful wee things
Okay.
for that.
And I'll sneak Panadol on the side.
Yeah. So generally speaking, always leave, if you go to a midwife, doctor or chemist, I just find chemists are the best at knowing what is actually okay for pregnancy or breastfeeding.
Because they're doing it day in, day out.
Yeah, and I've got this fantastic, they call it breastfeeding Bible. I can't think of the name of it exactly now, but they will just open it up and right from tibia for your toes to hair gel, they can tell you if it's something that's going to go through. It's mainly to look at the brain barrier as to whether or not it crosses into the milk, but alcohol definitely does. Most synthetic drugs and most, like marijuana and all those sorts of things definitely do cross in. So it's always, Panadol is considered a safe one, but always, I'm not medically trained. So, always get advice from your midwife or something for that. But generally speaking, Panadol is considered quite safe.
They've given that to me in the hospital. So,
Yeah. After my third, I had Panadol for them, so it's one of those things. And your midwife probably will go after you, just give you some
Okay.
and say, here,
Yeah.
take this. So, and from what I understand is even if you've been on medicines all the way through pregnancy and they may go through your breast milk, if it's something really important to your health, you need to stay on it. But your doctor or your chemist, anything else will keep you up to date with that and what that aspect of you here.
Okay.
Well, I've got asthma medication that
Yeah.
I took all through pregnancy and through breastfeeding.
Yeah.
I don't think much, but
No, and I
the benefits to me outweighs.
Right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that to go wrong.
No.
So,
not excellent.
no.
So, I mean, obviously your doctor and everyone else is aware that you're taking it, be pregnant with breastfeeding, so works really well with that. So, any other questions about those two things?
With the breastfeeding, this is something that I've always wondered. So if you are drinking or you take something, or is the pump and dump myth thing actually a myth, or is it because people say it's a waste of time because it comes out of not out of your milk, but it dilutes down after all? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so people have been
Goes
saying
away.
lately that the whole, if you have a glass of wine the night before and then you pump and dump in the morning, you're actually just wasting milk by doing that because it might not actually.
The pump and dump thing is more about keeping yourself comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you don't want to be
I mean, specifically after you consume that.
the alcohol, pretty much once it's out of your blood system, it's out of your milk
Yeah,
system.
that's why.
So it's not like it sits
Doesn't
in
store
storage.
itself.
I mean, Rest don't store milk. They make it as it's needed.
That's, yeah.
So
And that's what they're saying. So the pump, like drinking and then pumping off, is actually not necessary because you're not getting. It's not.
It's not, except for if you say we're drinking at 6 o'clock that night
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
normally
yeah.
feed baby at 12 and 3.
I mean, I'm not planning on getting trashed. I didn't drink the whole time I breastfed with Rowan.
But yeah, then
But,
I would pump and dump for the sheer sake that it'll keep you comfortable.
Yeah,
and obviously
yeah.
you don't want baby having that milk that has.
No,
got
exactly.
alcohol
That's what I
in it.
mean. Yeah.
Because
Because they sell
When I
test
pumped
strips
before, I
for
had a
breast
drink.
milk for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an alcohol
I had
test strip
July,
thing.
I That's
Sounds
what
like
like
a
the
really
real
good
it's
idea.
easier, doesn't it?
No, I know, exactly.
I'll come
Wouldn't you just
later on if
not
I got uncomfortable.
drink?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there was
So,
always
I think some people can't
hours.
help
Lily
not
Shelley
having
is
They
really
think,
your
oh,
best people to
Yeah.
ask those questions. So we, as part of this group, we actually have a 6-week follow-up with Tara. So we actually sort of try and work out once you've all had your babies to come, and we just sort of call it a celebration of breastfeeding. So it's an opportunity. She's a fully trained lactation consultant, and so she just comes here and we just sit and relax, and I get to pay for the babies because I'm only allowed to play with other people's ones now. And Tara will, talk to you about, what has been your successes and challenges you've had, and so she can really help you out. But they're available 24/7. So, she can answer any of those questions for you. And Alicia Lee's got a huge library of documents online, so there are all things that you can check and work out. Yeah. And your question about maybe people start leaking during pregnancy, absolutely.
Yeah, I do.
So it's from what I understand, it's more likely with subsequent pregnancies that you might. So it's just with the colostrum where you can start leaking. Just because you haven't started leaking it before baby comes doesn't mean you're going to have any issues breastfeeding. It just means that your body is getting ready.
It's inconsistent anyway. Well, what's weird is my friend's newborn was crying the other day, and then all of a sudden my boobs started leaking.
That's a very common one. To be out doing the groceries and
Yeah.
the newborn in the trolley. And, yep. So,
When you forget to put the breast pads in, yeah.
but it's a quick way to get to the front of the queue though. I have to say, people see you with a wet t-shirt and it's, I need to coach my baby, and they just look and go, okay. So, it's benefits to everything. You'll work out what ones there are. So, okay, so we'll move on to the pelvic floor. And so, in light of the big pad, just held them up, I just want to quite just go, your pelvic floor, roughly looks like that. Surprise, surprise. And so, you've got your urethra, you've got your vagina, and you've got your anus. It roughly does look like a big continence pad. So if you imagine your pelvic floor is, so it's big sort of hammock of muscles that support your bladder, your womb, and all your bowel and your intestines up into your system. So it's strung from your front. Do you want a wee pillow or something behind you?
I think it's a muscle thing. I'm not sure that posture can really help, but I keep trying. Sorry.
Have you tried sitting backwards on the chair?
No.
So I know that just helped me sometimes leaning forward over
I think I'm finally figuring out what it is. I think it's my cylinders. It's really tight, so I don't know. End of the day, it tends to just, it's like someone's got a hand back there, just like,
sorry, I could just see you. And I
yeah.
just thought it was sorry. Absolutely fine. So those muscles connect from your front pubic bone through to your back. So if you imagine we were holding a big sheet and we started throwing weights into it. And so although the pelvic floor is, likened to a trampoline that, it can be stretched and then it'll come back up with a long-term weight sitting on it. And so, throughout a pregnancy, we're sort of throwing another 7 kilos, give or take, onto this, pelvic floor, so it's going to get slightly more stretched and slightly more stretched. Now, obviously, you can tell that it controls continence. So, having a weak pelvic floor can lead to, you accidentally, leaking a wee bit of urine, stress incontinence in particular, where you sneeze or you cough or speak of trampolines, jump on a trampoline, and you just have a little bit come out. So, that's why our pelvic floor is so important. You two have gone through pelvic floor exercises many times, and I was going to say, if you're like me, you hear pelvic floor and just, see the old eyebrows start raising, you go, like, that's it, I'm ready to do those. So it's really, really important throughout pregnancy to practice your pelvic floor exercises, and after pregnancy as well. So after the birth, whether it's been a C-section or vaginal birth, there seems to be a bit of a myth out there that if baby was born via C-section, you're not going to need to do it. Anyway, it's to do with that long-term pressure that's happened over the pregnancy versus the birth. The other benefit of practicing pelvic floor muscles is you also learn how to relax them. So at the end of a contraction, you're going to relax them, and relaxing of them is really, really important during that second stage when baby's coming down through the birth canal and you're about to birth baby. You do want to be able to relax those muscles. A tight, contracted muscle isn't going to want to keep anything in, whereas if you can relax it, and so it's quite, it can be quite beneficial even if you feel like you're struggling at that time to actually think, relax, and remember that feeling of relaxing them. So we might as well practice a couple. So I'm sure you ladies will know what you're up to, but so if I'll leave you sitting like that, but you might want to scoot forward off the front. Can you scoot forward on that? So if you sort of imagine you go to the toilet, and so that sensation, those muscles that you're closing, so it's those sphincters that you're closing down to stop yourself going to wee, that is your pelvic floor muscle. And what you're sort of feeling when you think you want to close that is you want just to lift your perineum. So that your perineum is a bit between your vaginal opening and your anal opening. So that bit in between there is perineum that we're talking about. So when you pull that up, you want to just feel that come up off the chair slightly and then let it go. So can you sort of feel where those muscles are? So another good way to practice them is to put one hand, you guys can put on top of your thumbs. I would like to say I haven't got a bump anymore, but there's a bit of one there. So one hand on top of your back and one hand on top of your shoulder. So a really important part of pelvic floor muscles is making sure you're breathing correctly. So just sit there and breathe for a second and just feel. So your tummy should be doing most of the movement and your shoulders shouldn't be moving much. So if your shoulder's moving, you want to try and redirect that breath down lower. So that means you're doing some quite shallow breathing. So the real relaxing breaths are the ones with your tummy. Okay. So with your hands still there, so you feel your breathing, you need to continue breathing properly throughout them. If you just try and contract those muscles and just lift them up slowly until you feel them start to sort of tense and almost shake a wee bit that they're there. And keep breathing with it.
How long are we supposed to hold them for?
They say up to 10 seconds, but
I couldn't do it.
3
No, I don't feel like I can. I feel like I can tighten them or whatever, but I can't hold it very long. It kind of disappears on its own, and I'm like, oh.
If you can hold it, it's
Pretty good. You are. I was going to say, so, and then you just let them go, but you just want to keep that breathing going the whole time. So it's really important to practice those long, slow, hold ones, because the other one that they get you to practice is the flicks, and so that's where you just lift it up, let it go, lift it up, let it go, lift it up, let it go. Now that one there is really good for stress incontinence. So that's a quick grab, so you've sneezed and your body knows that, oh, let's close that. The long hold one is what actually prevents prolapse, and so prolapse is where your pelvic floor has gotten weak enough that your uterus or your bladder has actually sagged down into your vagina walls a wee bit, and that gives you quite a heavy dragging sort of feeling. So the other way to check whether or not you're doing them properly is if you hold just up inside your hips here, so you can probably feel it better standing, but you want to stay sitting. And so as you pull them up, you should feel that muscle along here come in slightly. So it was actually physio that showed me this, and I just thought it was really interesting because I was like, that's actually a really neat way of knowing that you're really connected. So you shouldn't feel any of your upper tummy muscles moving. If your upper tummy muscles are moving, you're pulling in too hard, you're pulling the wrong muscles. And also you shouldn't feel your buttocks tight.
Oh,
So,
I just feel like my bum's moving. I'm doing something wrong.
so yeah, so you will actually feel, so the lower tummy muscles pulling in is absolutely fine. But if you feel anything above your belly button, you're sort of doing it wrong. So lots of practice. Another good way of practicing, so obviously you need to be okay with having sex and everything else during pregnancy. So if for some reason your midwife has said, don't have sex or you're having bleeding or you've got potential for infection, don't do it. But in the bath is if you put a couple of fingers inside your vagina and then practice them, and you will actually feel it bit tightening. So it's a really quick way of getting feedback that you know you're in the right spot and that you are pulling those right muscles. If you have never done them before, or if you do have a weak pelvic floor already, it can take a wee while for it to really, to start feeling them and really gripping them. So it's really important you do them though. I say to people, try, they're sort of saying anything, 3 or 4 sets of 10 a day. Sort of thing. So it's quite a lot. But I say associate it with something that you don't do quite a lot. So like I say, each time you go to the kettle to make yourself a cup of tea, while you're waiting for the jug to boil, just sort of, if anyone asks you what you're doing, just go, making a cuppa. But, it's just quite a good way of that trigger of remembering what to do. I know someone else that each time she hits a red light on her way to work, so she sits at the red light doing. So just associating it with an action is a really good way of remembering how to do it. After the birth, they sort of say you want to do as many as how many days your baby is old. So on day 1 you want to do 1, on day 2 you want to do 2, and so on until you forget how many days old baby is. And so come from about 2 months back up to those trying to do 3 sets. Or if you particularly know, you've had something happen that has weakened your pelvic floor, that you might want to do some more and really work on it. Don't suffer with incontinence if that happens to you. Don't just think it's something I've got to live with. It's not something you've got to live with. There's amazing physios. There's one in Nelson that particularly works with women's incontinence issues, especially surrounding childbirth. I'm not saying that any of you will end up incontinent from childbirth, but it is, it's just can be one of those things. And she is amazing that she'll work with you, but also, there's medical help available. So don't ever, or if you have got a dragging sensation, you need to let your midwife know that too, because that might be the fact that things are slowing down a wee bit. So your pelvic floor's weak, so she needs to check that. But never just suffer in silence for it.
Is that the woman that's at the same place as Anushka? What's it called?
Well-being, or
Yeah, something like that.
I was going to say that they've moved quite a few times. I can't think where, but yes, centre for
It's right around the corner from the Hobbit jeweler.
yes,
Yeah.
Collingwood.
Oh.
No.
But they did the hot yoga next door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So and there's like equilibrium in those places too. That all have sort of chiropractic help for things as well. But yeah, that's just something I hear of a lot of women that sort of go, I've just dealt with it, and it's like it's just not something. It's not something you have to just deal with. It's something So prevention is always the best key for anything, because if you can prevent it happening, and it honestly does become habit. The more you associate it with something, the quicker it becomes a habit. So any questions about pelvic floor, or how you find them, or how you practice with them?
I do need to move more. It's completely just don't think about it.
Each time you go to pick your child, so
Yeah.
son or daughter?
Son, yeah, both, but yeah.
Which one is a little?
Son, yeah.
Son. So each time you go to pick them up,
Yeah.
like before you
Oh,
swap
no, not
out.
that small. I wouldn't be picking them up, but yeah.
Oh, okay. And some has
Yeah.
it's not toddlers,
Yeah,
before you
that's
kind of go
true,
to
yeah.
pick them up. So
Yeah.
perhaps grocery bags,
Yeah.
the firewood,
I remember after I had him, the lady said to put stickers like on the cupboard above the kettle, or like a sticker above the sink where you're doing the dishes, and then every time you see that sticker, you sort of think to do it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know family planning says that for the pill, to put a little smiley face on your mirror or something to remember to take the pill.
Yeah.
And it just dawned a bell for me with the pill before. It was the thing, if I've got something that I do every day,
Yeah.
and I'm just
And after you have the baby, if you're hearing things in the kitchen, or you're standing at a diaper thing or something, I don't know. Yeah, but I think
Yep, each time you
there are
change
things you do
basically.
routinely. Yeah.
Perhaps, so just move. So I've got already the video, and especially I can imagine Ryan asking what you talked about. So here you go.
He's right in on the conversation. It's
And I'll talk about the perineal massage in a minute. There's a way.
probably the best explanation of the pelvic floor muscles that I've heard being a hammock, because I've always found it quite hard to sort of envision which muscles it is, whether it's like side muscles or what. But yeah, thinking of it as like being pelvic floor, but yeah, thinking of it as like the hammock and everything is quite.
And everything's just
Yeah,
sort of
and you can
sitting
see
up.
why, like it makes it easier to sort of understand how it all works and why it's so important. And
And it's quite resilient in reality when you think what we're putting it through, but it does, like every muscle, it's going to work better strength than the time.
yeah,
And that's not the wall of my chair. Just about up here. So, perineum massage is one of those things that seems to be either something people really think is great or people just don't want to know about. So, I'll just go over it very briefly with you guys. So, perineum massage again is that part of the muscle we're talking about. So, between your vaginal opening and your anus. That is what stretches and opens when baby's crowning. Now, it's been really well researched and huge results doing it. A reduction of tears, reduction of graving, and reduction of assistance for the actual birth of babies. It was developed, so mainly it is presented through the pink kit. So if you can get a hold of a copy of the pink kit and there's something you want to look into further, it really is worth doing it. But the basis of it is that you are going to pre-stretch in a gentle, nice way your perineum before baby's born. So, two ways mainly of doing it is always you want to put a wee bit of lube on your thumbs or your fingers, and you're going to put 2 thumbs in, and you're going to pull down and then go out slightly until you feel a slight stinging, sort of tingling sensation. I'm not saying go and hurt the damn out yourself by any ways or means. So gentle but firm pressure, and you sort of want to pull and let it just sort of tingle a wee bit until that tingling stops, which is about 2 minutes, which may seem like a long time to be sitting holding that. Obviously you're going to be wanting to lay on your bed or something while you're doing this. I've heard other people say that do it in the bath, which is, as you know, water is quite soft and gentle and relaxing. The other way that some people do it is to put in 2 fingers and then pull down into one side first, wait for the 2 minutes, so for that tingling to stop, back to centre and down to the other side, stop to centre. You should, over time, so it shouldn't be started until about 35 weeks. And again, same rules as when I said about the pelvic floor testing it. If for some reason you've been told you not to have sex or you might have a risk of infection or something, be very careful doing those sorts of things. But most of the advice and some are actually quite pro doing this, and so if you have got questions about it, they will happily go over it with you. Some of the handouts where it says use olive oil, and I always just sort of go, I realise that's natural, but that would actually throw me a little bit, just carry a bottle of olive oil to my bedroom. So, so I sort of say sweet almond oil or just your normal water-based lubes to use it. Don't use anything petroleum in that area, so no Vaseline or anything like that.
There is something you can buy that does similar.
Massage oil?
No, but there's something you can insert.
Yeah, I've seen them, and
It stretches it, and then you just a little bit more each day, stretch it a little bit more.
yeah, I have seen those. I didn't.
I've only just read about it once.
It was like an inflatable balloon sort of. Is that one you saw it? And you sort of injected water, and it went from like a cherry to a. Apparently you slowly aim to. I honestly can't.
Almost 10 centimetres.
I honestly can't comment on it. I do have to say, this to me is like a nice understanding of your body, and like whilst you're doing it, you will learn where those muscles are from that tingling and everything else. And so during your actual birth, it's that connection mind to body that you've already made with that part of your body, because it's not really something most of us say, we've spent hours massaging that area of our body. So it can be quite a foreign environment for some of us, and so that gives you a really good click in. And I find it, really helpful, but also for that actual birth part that you can click, you can feel that you're slightly tight there, and you know, gee, I need to relax that, but I can feel that bit's tight. The mechanical ones I have seen, I don't mean this offensively, they do seem rather male-made to me. You know, that they've seen something and thought it needs a tool. It needs an object to make it work, which isn't the case, you know, and so definitely research Pink Kit if there's something you're interested in. Most of the items have actually got copies of the Pink Kit that I'll loan you. The Pink Kit, it's such a valuable tool, really, really good to look at if you want to. Just unfortunately, it's very monotonous in its teaching.
That's a very big
I was just going to
folder.
say, I've just got given it and it's huge, and I'm like, do I have to read it?
Yeah,
So
so,
I think
so is it a book or a
I've got a
DVD or a...
and a book.
It's
Yeah.
daunting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Because
massive.
I only heard about it the other day from Jess. I
Yeah.
didn't even know.
It needs a
about it.
rewrite.
Yeah.
Winter Green is working on that. That's the writer of it, and they are looking at representing it. But it was sort of very early 90s, late 80s, I think.
Nice.
So, you know, it's quite interesting in its presentation, but grit through it. Because what the tools, and it's about being actively engaged in your birth, and that is so powerful. It's really, really powerful to be, you know, and you're never a passive role. This is your birth, your baby, your body. How are you going to be in charge of that? And it's your power. And so really looking into these things can really bring that power fully back to you. Yeah. So how are we going with all those information? Just sort of So, I mean, if it's not something you want to do, by all means, it's not a deal breaker with any other midwives or anything else, or your baby will still be born if you don't do this, I promise you. But it's definitely beneficial to go through that.
If it avoids a tear.
Mm.
I think it was something like, because they did a trial, it was actually here in Nelson with Andrea and Mishka and Susie were the ones that really pushed it through.
If you can already, would it still sort of...
Yeah, this was
Yes.
curious, yeah.
Yes, there were subsequent births with previous damage that they did.
Number 5?
Yeah, I won't give you the numbers right now because I'll be honest, my 3-year-old did not sleep last night, so my brain has just sat down for a moment and decided it doesn't want to come back to the party. But I will link you. I'll find those because really
That's something I'd really like to try to avoid.
Yeah,
hearing.
absolutely. And this year it's a huge, huge reduction. Like that.
Even a small tear would be better than what I've had to experience. So.
No, so, and it's not dependent on the size of baby or anything else either. It was something really interesting in the study, and all the results that came back is it wasn't something, you know, women that were, you know, first babies, whether they had a 6 pound or a 10 pound, it didn't seem to be any difference, and same with subsequent. So, but huge reductions in subsequent births as well. Do you think they're coming back?
That's such a Ryan.
If it was my husband here, it'd be worse. They wouldn't go back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Ryan filled me in on how he actually knows your husband from over the hills. You know,
Yeah, we
well,
own a bar.
yeah, so Ryan knows
That's
most people who own bars.
There's a long day.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And I think he bought the land off his parents or something, Kathy and Buki.
It's a small
Yeah,
place.
it is, yeah. Because he said something, I don't know, they're real estate agents and they said they've known you guys for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Buki and Kathy.
Oh, Burgie, that's in...
St Arnaud.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
bought land out there.
Yeah. Oh, that's Ross. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's his parents.
Was that his parents?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been here 13 years now, and I still think, gosh, Nelson's a small place.
Yeah,
Just how quickly people know each other.
yeah.
Right, I was thinking, as soon as we're waiting for them, I might jail up our webcam, however. Do we all want to have a cuppa now while we're waiting for the guys to come back? and give them the opportunity to cover, because I just don't need to wait on them to do the next parts. So you guys all right with that?
Yeah.
But did you guys have any questions you guys wanted to discuss with me or with each other about anything?
Right, I did, after we talked about cord blood banking and stuff last week, I researched into it. And apparently they're not recommending it anywhere now, because apparently out of the people in New Zealand who have done it over the last 10 years, or 8 years, 10 years, there were less than 1% who actually went back and used the cord blood for something. It was effective. Less than 1% had success with it, and so it cost them like upwards from $7,000 to do it. Oh God, it was Ryan. Finishing a drink, I'm guessing.
And I was,
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
with not having the injection,
That's crazy.
yeah, birth placenta.
yeah, and
So I
money.
spoke to my
Costs a
midwife
lot of money.
about it,
It's
because
so
I'm
like
only number 5.
Been calculated.
The hospital recommends that I.
Oh yeah, I did.
Did
Yeah,
you read how
yeah, I read
how
it.
to make sure
It
how to
doesn't
smell?
matter.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
3
I
hours
read
later.
And be ready for it.
Brian's like,
She said,
are you going to be
my
doing
midwife
that
said,
if you
you know,
don't get
we'll
Well, I
just
remember cooking
play
up
it by
kidneys for a
ear,
cat
because
once.
I've never had a good bleed
The
anyway.
smell was so disgusting. I
Yeah.
ended up putting it all into a jar and doing like throwing it out.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
wondering if this is similar.
Yeah,
Really
must be,
overpowering,
It should be
meaty.
Yeah,
okay.
because I was curious.
Although,
I
After
didn't
reading it.
realise that yet.
I mean, if there's a likelihood that I would wet, then I'd
Yeah, and you
wash
have to
that.
check it for blood and
That's
stuff.
all that
I
would
found the lady that does it on
I mean,
Facebook.
Oh, really?
And she does like crisps.
You know, going into over
Like
the
half
extras.
crisps, and then she like cuts your pork when you're in
So,
pork,
you
but
know, because what I
she
feel,
like makes
what
them
are your
like
thoughts,
corn
and-
shapes of love hearts and then
Absolutely
tries.
nothing is.
So you get like
So weird, but it's still like,
umbilical
Yeah.
cord
Yeah.
memento.
Right,
That's kind of cool.
must take a break
Yeah.
now and